Welcome to The Quad, the new board game geek show where four shameless characters from around the world of hobby gaming meet to discuss game-related topics. Each one of us will argue, defend, or fight to have our chosen example shown to be the best example in the topic of this week's show. I'm Stephen Bonacore, the podfather of gaming, and I'm a hobby game entrepreneur, game media personality, and game industry veteran. You'll find me all over social media, especially my Facebook group and YouTube channel called The Podfather of Gaming, plus my very long-running podcast available in both audio and video formats on my YouTube channel, Board Games Insider.
I'm Candice Harris. I'm a media creator for BoardGameGeek. You will find me all over BoardGameGeek. I host the BGG podcast, Cardboard Creations, and I write BGG news and do all sorts of other fun projects, such as The Quad.
My name is Matthew McCack. I am a content creator for all things board gaming, and you can find me on Room 51 YouTube channel and Room 51 Live Twitch channel where we stream live. And you could also find me on The Quad for Board Game Geek. Oh, and most recently, Our Family Plays Games Voices.
Hi, I'm Joe Senese, otherwise known as PhantomMeeple, everywhere on the internet. I am primarily a board game Twitch live streamer. You can find my content over on Twitch TV/PhantomMeeple or everywhere on social media at PhantomMeeple. Just all around kind of guy, playing games, live streaming, Kickstarter reviews, all sorts of good stuff.
Excellent. All right. So the topic of the show for today. Today we are going to discuss, drum roll please, Derek. I love when he does that. Racing games. And each of us is going to tell you why our example is the best of these games or our favorite in the genre or what makes it special in this category. Well, first, let's define the category of racing games. Matthew, what's a racing game?
I'll tell you, Steven. So, racing games are games where the objective is to be the first to reach a checkpoint by navigation or steering around obstacles, usually by having greater speed and or control than your opponents.
Very good. But this is not to be confused with games in which players simply attempt to attain a particular goal or winning condition more quickly than others. In that case, that's a race mechanic. And that's defined as race mechanic games where the first player to achieve a key objective wins the game. Catan is a race mechanic game because you're looking to get to 10 points first. So very different. We're actually talking about games where you are racing something, other people, to get to the end first. So let's present the games right now. And Candice, you're first.
I'll go first. So when it comes to racing games, I have to kind of think about the first game that kind of got me excited about what a racing game could be. And that is why I picked Downforce today. And Downforce is a game by Wolfgang Kramer, Rob Davio, and Justin D. Jacobson. It is a card-driven bidding, racing, and betting game for 2 to 6 players based on Wolfgang Kramer's Top Race, which was a game originally released back in 1996, back in the day. And in this game, in Downforce, we're not race car drivers, but instead we're wealthy investors. And the goal of the game is to make the most money by betting on the outcome of the race. So each player is going to have a hand of cards, and these cards show 1 to 6 numbers on them, matching the different color race cars. And at the start of the game, there's going to be an auction. So we're going to be bidding on the 6 different race cards for the race. And you're also bidding on a special ability card. So there are all these special abilities that you can play with in this game. And for example, like if you wanted to bid on the blue card, you would play a card from your hand that has a blue car value, and whoever plays the highest blue car value wins that card and the special ability that got paired with it for that particular auction. So you go through and auction off every car. Some players, depending on your player count, might have 2 cars. Some players might have 1 car, but everyone will have at least 1 car that they own. And then everyone also has a score pad. So whichever cars you end up winning, you're going to write the number that you bid to take that car. down, and there's more on that later at the end of the game. Then you're going to start the race, which we're all excited about. And the race is driven by the cards that all the players have. So on your turn, you are going to play one of the cards in your hand. And again, the cars, I'm mixing up cars and cards. The cards are going to have 1 to 6 values indicating which cars will move. It's the speed of the particular cars. And when you play a card, you're going to resolve it top to bottom and move every car that is on the card based on the color and the speed value. So when it's my turn, I'm going to play a card, and I might be moving cars that I own. I might be moving cars that other people own. Who knows? It depends on the card I choose to play. Who knew this would be so hard with card and car? But anyway, this goes around and around. And when a car ends up crossing over, so you have like a regular racetrack, when a car ends up crossing over one of these yellow lines, if it's the first car to do it, everybody's going to pause, and we're all going to secretly bet on which car we think is going to win the race. And there are 3 yellow lines spread throughout the racetrack before you get to the finish line. So every time you hit one of these yellow lines, the first car that hits it, we are going to pause, and we're going to secretly bet on which car we think is going to win. Okay, so after, as the cars cross the finish line, they're going to get lined up in rank order. Whoever got there first is going to be first, second, third, yada, yada, yada. But then at the end of the game, you're basically going to get prize money based on the rank of your own cars. So usually the better your cars do, the more money you're going to make. But then you'll also get money for any bets you won on the cars you picked, during each of those 3 betting periods. And then you're going to subtract the amount of money you spent on the auction. So if you bid something like 6 on one car you own and 4 on another, you're going to have minus 10, and this is millions of dollars, at the end of the race, but that you'll subtract from the total of the money you made from the bets and also how your particular cards did. And at that point, whoever has the most money wins, and that's the game. So Downforce, what I love about it is it's more than just a racing game. You have that auction at the beginning, which is really interesting because you're bidding on not only which car you might want to own, but also that special ability, which arguably might be more important. But it also depends on which cards you have in your hand. Maybe you have a lot of cards that are going to push blue forward. So you're like, oh, I really want to own blue because I know I could push it ahead and then bet on it and win the race and yada, yada, yada. But I also love that it's card driven, and you do have these really interesting decisions because you have this whole hand of cards throughout the game, and you're choosing which one to play because you're also going to be moving, multiple cars depending on which cars are on the card you're playing. But also the timing of when you play that card, because that card is gone. It's discarded out of the game after you play it. So there's a whole hand management thing of the timing of when to play the cards, which cards you want to play. Also, you have the ability, since you are moving the cars on your card, you could potentially kind of screw over some of your opponents. You have a lot of, let's say, agency over what's going on in the race. And I think the special abilities are great. So it lets you kind of mitigate some of the things that are happening. Like I said, you usually resolve the cards from top to bottom, but one of the special abilities lets you resolve it if you want bottom to top. So that could change the impact of what happens after you play that card and the way the different cars move. And also the base game is double-sided, so you have 2 different tracks that you can kind of play on. And when I learned this game, I played with the Wild Ride expansion, and that has a double-sided board as well. One side, you get to add these little ramps, which add a whole nother dynamic to the game because you can jump these ramps and kind of get ahead. One side has animals. There might be snakes on the board. You're going to have to kind of move around. But yeah, I love this game. It plays quickly. I love that it's not just about, oh, I'm only moving my car, and I love that we are betting. So even if my cars don't necessarily win the race, I can still win the game if I bet in a smart way. So that is why I picked downforce?
I've got something to say here, Candice. So, first of all, we're not even racers, we're gamblers or something like that. Second of all, it's a set collection game, is really what this comes down to. I mean, okay, it qualifies as a racing game, but thematically, this does not hold up for me. Now, it's not a bad game, certainly. I mean, I've enjoyed. I played it a couple of times. It was a good game, but this doesn't hold a thematic connection to me at all for what it's trying to do, and the fact that I'm not racing the car. I want to be racing that car. That's what would have been hooked me in more.
Yeah, I also I'm not a fan of downforce. For as your pick, not for any of the reasons Bon, of course, stated. I think what he said was
course.
totally wrong.
Of course.
I think that it totally belongs on the list, if you like this sort of game. But I disagree with the fact that I feel like this game is overrated, honestly. I think that betting on the cars and the person with the most money at the end wins the game, I don't think that really usually happens. I think it's usually the person who owns the car who then also finishes first and has been betting on themselves the entire time will win the game. And that has happened almost every single time I've played this game. Without it, and it drives me crazy. I'm just like, but why would you help this person win? And people will do it anyway. And
It
so,
sounds like you're
yeah.
playing with silly players there, because I've not had that problem at all. I think when you get people who are like paying attention to that, you can play cards to mitigate that. Like that's the whole thing. You have all these options in your hand, and if people are playing poorly, I'm sorry you had a bad experience because of that.
I've had multiple bad experiences, Candice, and yeah, but a game, a game should not allow itself to be played poorly just because everybody is playing poorly. You know what I mean? I don't know. So no, I hate this game. I almost like it, but I hate it.
That's too funny. I have to agree with both Steven and Matthew. I think downforce is fantastic for what it is, but I have to agree that there's a little element of self kingmaking. Like if you're betting on yourself and have the first place car, like great, you're probably gonna win. Yeah, there's some mitigation factors in there with the whole set collection mechanic and trying to move other cars, but at the end of the day, if you got the right draws, you're gonna win regardless.
Yeah, I'm also going to go ahead and say I played this for the first time with the Wild Ride expansion with the ramps. And I think whatever you guys are feeling might be from something from the base game. So I will caveat that I'm talking about with the ramps. Oh, you had the problem with the ramps?
Yeah, I've tried different expansions. I've played on that one. Nope, still happened. I've tried.
This is fascinating because I've never had that problem every time when I've played this game. Like it's always been kind of a mixed bag of not necessarily the person who ranked first does not always win the game. So, but well, let's move on. I'm curious to hear since everybody's so judgmental about downforce. What else?
Joe, what game are you bringing to the table here?
So for me, this was a big favorite of mine. Found it at Gen Con last year. Long Shot the Dice game, designed by Chris Handy and published by Perplexed. Fantastic little dice rolling right game for 1 to 8 players. Fantastic solo mode, but really, really great with if you got a large group. Basically, you are spending a day at the track betting on a horse race. So each player has a player board, and each player gets starting conditions, which is you'll get 2 horses, which already have a set amount of money already bet on them, as well as you have $12 personal money. And there's also a concession board that's like a bingo style type board that you're going to cross off some of the numbers to start with. Then on your turn, you're going to roll a D8 and a D6. The D8 is going to determine which one of the 8 horses are going to move. The D6 determines how many spaces that horse will move. So that's the first thing you'll do. The horses will move. Then you're going to decide what action you want to take. So you can do one of 5 things. The first thing, you can bet more money on that horse. So say you rolled horse number 1, you could bet up to $3 on that horse, try and increase your winnings. The next thing you can do is you could use that number on the concession board. So when you make a line on the concession board, either up or down, left or right, or diagonally, when you complete a line, you get concessions, which might give you more money. It might give you a free purchase of a horse. It might give you abilities to affect the race. Like you can move a horse forward a couple of spaces. You can move a horse back a couple of spaces. Try and make the outcome of the race go more in your favor. Another thing you can do is you can buy the jockey's helmet for that horse, which will allow you to keep placing bets on a particular horse once it crosses the no bet line on the board. You can buy the jersey for that horse, which will let you cross off that horse's number on another horse's card. So I guess I kind of jumped around a little bit there. Each one of the horses has a card with a special ability and what horses will move when that number is rolled. So the entire race is basically jockeying back and forth depending on how people manipulate the horses. And then the last thing you can do is you can straight up buy a horse. And if your horse wins the race, you collect either win, place, or show money for that horse on top of the money that you've bet, depending on the place a horse came in. And most money at the end of the game wins. Fantastic little game, plays really, really quick. And I love it for the variety it has. It comes with 3 different sets of horses, and you can also get expansion packs, which I think there are 3 or 4 more sets of 8 horses, and you can mix and match them. Really, really great. I thoroughly enjoy this one.
So I'm buying helmets and jerseys in this game, and concession stand items.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you're telling me. Really?
That's a cut along with betting on horses to make money and win the game. Yeah, it's a small part of it.
I'll open the floor up before I continue.
It sounds like something like I've never played this game or the game that it's based on, because it's a dice version of another game, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I did look at a video of it. I noticed you said something about you get to kind of control the horses you move, but it's based on a die roll, so there's just randomness with. I know you can mark off and say, oh, when this happens to get rolled, you'll also move this other horse, but it's kind of random. Whereas in Downforce, you are choosing a card from your hand, which you have at the beginning of the game, to move, and you know what horses are moving which distance. So I don't know how I feel about the randomness, but I would definitely try this game.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, at the end of the day, it's a horse race, so there's a little bit of push your luck involved too. It's gambling, so you know, gambling's not guaranteed. You're not going to know the outcome.
I have not played this game. I really wanted to play this game, and I really wanted to disagree with you, Joe. But it does actually sound like a lot of fun and really up my alley, because I love push your luck in games, and I find that to be a really cool mechanism within racing itself. So it seems like it would be an exciting game that I want to try. I don't know if it's better than my pick, which is coming up soon, but yeah, man, I really wish I could have just hammered on you, but I can't.
Yeah. So I have played the game, and I played the original a really long time ago, and I remember this being better than the original. I love the player count, right? This is a 2 to 8 player game, which I really, I love these higher player count games. That's great. And it's excusable in a horse racing game not to be like the jockeys, because that's, not all of us are going to have the ability to be jockeys. But, unlike a car racing game where you want to be the car racer, for instance. But I get this game. I think it's really well done. And it's slick. I'd like to disagree with you more, but it's a pretty good game, and definitely builds upon, in a good way, the original game. All right, I think I'm next. Am I next up? Why not?
Yes,
I think so.
Sure,
Why not?
Sure.
So my pick, of course, is the best in the racing game genre, and that is Flamme Rouge. It's been published in 2016 by a small company you might have heard of, Stronghold Games, and Lautapellet.fi out in Finland with 10 other language partners. The designer is Asgar Harding Granerud. The mechanics are catch the leader, hand management, modular board, program movement, simulation, simultaneous action selection, track movement, and of course, race. Base game is 2 to 4 players, but I must also mention the Peloton expansion, which brings it 2 to 6 players, plays in 30 to 45 minutes, and it's for ages 8 and above. Flamme Rouge is a fast-paced, tactical bicycle racing game where each player controls a team of 2 racers, the rouleur, roller, and sprinteur, sprinter. That's like, for the French speakers are now cringing with my French pronunciation. In essence, in this game, you are simulating the great bicycle race, the Tour de France, by using your team of 2 riders in the most advantageous way to have one of your riders cross the finish line first. Or more precisely, the player to have one of their 2 riders cross the finish line furthest after all players have moved their riders in the last turn wins the game. The base game comes with 21 double-sided track tiles, which are combinable in many ways to create different racetracks, a set of 2 plastic riders, very cool looking, and a player board where you put your cards, which are all color-coded to the 4 or 6 players. 190 cards, which include a specific deck for your roller and your sprinter, because they act differently in the game, plus a communal deck of exhaustion cards, we'll get to those, and reference cards and stage or track cards. And after you've created the track on the table, which is a game in and of itself, lots of like moving it around and making sure you get it all right, you start the play, and the play is 3 simple phases. You have an energy phase, a movement phase, and an end phase. In the energy phase, for each rider, you draw 4 cards from your deck, which have numbers on them. These are the movements for the riders. Draw 4 cards, play 1, and recycle the remaining cards, like a face-up discard. Then you move the riders in turn, each rider starting from the front, going all the way to the back. And then in the end phase, you remove all the play cards and apply slipstreaming or drafting from the back of the pack to the front of the pack and assign exhaustion cards. Each rider's deck gets an exhaustion card if they are at the front of any of the packs of riders. Rinse and repeat until the turn where at least one player's rider has gone across the finish line. The player furthest across the finish line wins the game. So you need to make tactical decisions on every play, like when do I switch from playing my lower cards to my higher cards? And as I mentioned, there's these 2 different riders, and they act differently. The roller kind of is more steady. He's kind of has medium cards. He's got some lower, some higher, but more steady. And the sprinter has got a bunch of low cards, but of course at the end, he can play these huge bursts of speed, or he can do it in the middle. When do I position myself? Where do I position myself for the uphills and the downhill segments? Can I position myself to take advantage of the slipstreams or not? And in all of this, you're trying not to take too much exhaustion. And I just touched upon the uphill and the downhill. The strategy there is amazing, where anytime you touch an uphill, the maximum you can go, no matter what card you play, is going to be 5. And on a downhill, when you start there, the minimum you can go is 5. And you can't have any slipstreaming when you're on an uphill. You can't receive or give that drafting mechanism, the slipstreaming. I'd like to mention the expansion again, which is called Peloton, Flamme Rouge Peloton. And it adds the ability to go to 5 and 6 players. It starts at 4. These are 5, 6, which is great. But it also adds many more track tiles and different kinds of terrain. You have cobblestones, which you can't do slipstreaming there, give or receive. You have supply zones, which are wider. Think about the places where they drink the Gatorade or water on the racetrack. And there you can move a minimum of 4. And then you have these 1-lane choke points. You also have like bidding mechanics for breakaways and things, and some variants in the expansion. All of that is great. In conclusion, Flamme Rouge has fantastic replayability with the included track tiles, 21 in the base game, straights and curves of various angles, 9 more in the expansion. They're all double-sided. The game comes with recommended tracks to build. They call them stages, but you can do them any way you want if you want to get crazy and make them longer, and you'll barely get across the finish line with the cards. And though the theme is not very, I'll call it American, right? It's mostly Flamme Rouge, the Tour de France is followed mostly in Europe. This game's theme of a pack of bicyclists, your team of 2, plus all these bicyclists riding in a pack, trying to maneuver, trying to be behind them, but not too, maybe out in front sometimes, but not too much. It comes through so well. If you haven't played this game, Flamme Rouge is the best racing game. Your Honor, the defense rests.
Okay, I'm going to jump in real quick here. So I am really angry, Bonacore. I'm going to tell you why I'm angry. Okay?
He's angry. No. Matthew's never been angry in his life. Go ahead, Matthew.
Because I love disagreeing with you. It's like, it's what makes me wake up in the morning, all right? But
you have a very boring life.
No, I don't. Okay, no, I don't.
Oh my goodness.
But I was going to pick this game, but you snagged it. And I love this game. So I can't say anything badly about it because it would have been my pick. Now, for this episode, my pick is going to be better regardless, but I think it's I rest my case.
Thank you, Matthew. Joe?
Yeah, so I think the theme, I love the theme of Flamme Rouge. Like, I used to own it, and I like the idea of kind of like, you know, you're kind of deck building a little bit. And yeah, I think the theme is great, but ultimately I ended up just kind of being bored with it. And so I ended up like getting rid of it. So
you're bored of fun. Okay, all right, that's fine. Okay.
Wow. Wow, I could not disagree with you anymore, Candice. I gotta agree with Bonacore here. Like,
I love Candice today. I get it.
Amazing. Like, I love the programming mechanism. It's really, really fantastic. You don't want to push too hard. You don't want to push too soft. Like, it's a very elegant balance of playing your cards right to win the game. I think. I mean, I don't have a bad thing to say about it. I gotta agree here.
Wow, that was pretty good.
Mad.
Thank you. Well, we might as well very quickly, because we have a little time, mention that Heat is also by the same designer and has, obviously, it's been on the BGG hotness forever since it came out. And Heat is a retread. No offense to Asgard, the designer. He's a great guy. He took the design and he amped it a little bit, but differently, because you only have one car and you're managing the cards differently. So I haven't actually played Heat. I've seen it played. I still think that I would like Flamme Rouge better. I don't know if you guys can compare the two, if you've played both any bit.
I played Heat. I didn't realize at the time that it was the same designer, but I was like, oh, they're like, I remember the exhaustion thing was there. So I was like, oh, they got this from Flamme Rouge. Well, no wonder it's the same designer. I think I would have, like, I played the very like basic game and it felt like I need to revisit it. Cause yeah, people have been loving it. But it felt like we were all just like the whole time, like it didn't feel like an exciting race to me. Like it just felt like we were all just moving the same, like, okay. And then at the very end, oh, somebody pushed ahead. And so
Flamme Rouge is better.
Like,
okay, good.
Joe? Clearly I'm an outlier here. So maybe racing games are not my thing because like, yeah, I don't know. It didn't excite me. It didn't excite me.
Yeah. You're clearly struggling, Candice. It's okay. Today, Candice is totally wrong.
No, did you want to jump in?
Yeah, I mean, I personally haven't played Heat, nor do I know much about it. But now that I know it's the same designer as Flamme Rouge, I would definitely love to visit it. So that's good to know. But Candice, to your point, I mean, if you've only played the base game of Flamme Rouge, you have done yourself an extreme disservice. you definitely need to throw some expansions in there. It changes things up. Like Steven said, the different terrains can make a difference to the race. There's also if I'm not mistaken, there's also like a weather module too, which changes things up. Like you can, so many possibilities with the expansion. I would say revisit it with the expansions.
Okay.
Thank you very much. So Matthew, tell us about your game.
I will tell you about my game. It is. So I know that I already said Flamme Rouge was probably my pick, but really now, this is actually the best. We saved the best for last on purpose. And it is Camel Up Second Edition. So this came out in 2018. The designer is Stefan Bogen. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that properly. I hope I am. Publishers, I mean, there's been a bunch of publishers. The ones that I know of are Plan B Games and Pretzel Games. And this is a 3 to 8 player game. And essentially, you're racing around this track, around this pyramid with camels. And you are just, there's betting involved in this game, which is why, you know, I disagreed with Bonacore earlier about like betting being part of this video, but this one is very, very cool. This is, you have this pyramid in the middle and you're like shaking it up, and then a die comes out of it, and it depends on what kind of die it is, which camel is going to move up. You're betting on the camels as to which one is going to be in the lead for that round, and then ultimately you're also placing down cards face down, so nobody quite knows what it is that you've bet on, as to which camel you think is going to ultimately win the entire race. It's very quick. The game, it's about like 30 to 45 minutes long. It's great for party size. I think it's even fun for like a smaller player size. And this one just has that excitement factor that goes into racing, which is what draws me to this game. I love that. I love that it's like, come on, we need this camel to go. Come on, come on. And then, you know, and then you're like waiting for the die to come out, and you're like, yes or no, you know, and I just love that. And then at the end of the game, when you're revealing like, okay, who bet on what to finish in first place, you get to see like, okay, who did what, who was totally wrong, and that's intense even in it of itself, because it's like, well, man, if this person did this, I'll lose or I'll win, you know. And you just, it's so cool. I love this, and I love the toy factor. And the little camels, they can also like go on top of each other too, which is fun. So there's some stacking involved, but the one that's like on top is actually kind of like in first place of the stack, which is interesting. And then you have other like crazy camels going around. So some is like they're going backwards and forwards, and so they could push camels along or bring camels back with them, which is hilarious. And I just love this game. Like I said, I like the tension in it. I like the betting mechanisms. There's a couple of different ones. There's even where you get to kind of like make a partnership with the person. You kind of force them into this partnership of like, hey, if your camel does well this round, it works for me too. And they're like, fine. So I like the wackiness of the game, the just, like I said, the toy factor, the intensity of it, and really like those stand up moments of like, did the camel go? Did it like finish? You know, like, so that is why I picked Camel Up, which originally I thought was called Camel Cup, but they
everybody did.
Yes, everybody did.
So they made some they fixed some things up there, but that is my pick, Camel Up Second Edition.
All right, I'll jump in first. Camel Up is,
come on, Joe.
Okay, just okay, and I'll tell you why.
It's extremely okay.
It's extremely okay, and I'll tell you why. So to Candice's point earlier with my pick of Long Shot, with dice, there's going to be an element of randomness and chance. I get that. With Camel Up, it goes to the nth degree, because you never know what die is going to come out. Not to mention, along with the betting, it's done in secret. So you're trying to bet against hidden information. Like, not a fan. So really, I'm just placing bets on a mystery race and hope I do well. That could be fun. I mean, the wackiness of like the camels that go backwards and drag things, I mean, that's fun. I'll give you that. But overall excitement of like a race, hoping I win, it's not there.
Probability, Joe. Probability.
So, since you've already admitted, Matthew, that my game is better, I'll take it from here. I love the fact that I'm going to say place a lot of great words in this game. I love the fact that it plays to 8 players, and I think it shines these big player counts. I absolutely love the camel up mechanism where the camels stack and they're perfectly shaped, and in the wooden blocks that they stand on top of each other. I can't love that anymore. And I love the widget in the middle, the pyramid that, I don't know how to say this politely, poops out the dice, and all of a sudden that's the next die that comes out, and it has a number on it. I mean, all of that just is great. But Joe's point is, and by the way, and this is probably my second favorite game in this list, so you got it there. But Joe's point is right. You literally are betting with no knowledge on anything, because by the time it's important enough that you actually know who might have a chance of winning this race, it's way too late, because all of the good cards have already been bet. Who's going to be in first, who's going to be there. So it is randomness on top of randomness on top of randomness. But it is a fun, silly, that's the biggest thing I'm going to say. It's a silly, fun game, like a party game. This is a party racing betting game with camels jumping on top of each other. I really do like this game.
I've actually never played it before. I've heard great things about it, and I played some other game that was kind of similar. I can't think of the name of it, but I watched a video on it, and I was like, oh, this is definitely, I like the betting games and everything. But like, again, to me, it was the randomness of those dice dropping out that I was like, but I like that the camels hop on top of each other, and it seems like something I'll want to try at some point.
Yeah, I think that ultimately the game doesn't take itself seriously, and it knows that, and that's what I like. It's not something like Flamme Rouge where, it's supposed to be serious. So stop being so serious, Joe. Just have fun.
I never said it wasn't a fun game. I just said it's an okay game. Like, I would have fun playing Camel Up. It just would not be my first, second, or third pick. It would be.
Wow.
You're fourth. Fourth is good out of 4. No, maybe not as good. Well, anyway, I think that's a great note to close the show on. Today, we tackled the very difficult topic of racing games, and there really are a lot of good games in this category. I hope you all agree that the choices made by the co-hosts here were excellent and really representative of the category. What do you think? Tell us in the comments for the show. Agree? Disagree? Bonacor's a big jerk. Candice is always wrong. Matthew, rando, and Joe, our guy here. Let us know in the comments. And just in case you have forgotten, I'm Stephen Bonacor, the Podfather of Gaming.
I'm Candice Harris. You can find me on Twitter at CandyDrum.
I'm Matthew McCack, and you can find me on Room 51.
And I'm Joe Senese, a.k.a. PhantomMeeple. You can find me everywhere on social media and on Twitch at PhantomMeeple.
And we hope to see you here next time on the Quad. So let me jump
Looks
in.
like someone has something to say.
Let me jump in here.
So Joe is completely frozen. We lost Joe.
Oh no.
Oh.
Seriously?
We lost Joe.
Come back.